This video is brought to you by Sailrite. Did you know that making your own Christmas tree skirt is an exceptionally easy project? We're going to show you how it's done in this video. With only a few materials and obviously a sewing machine, you'll be off to making your own tree skirt that matches the decor of your living space. Christmas tree skirts can be anywhere from 44 inches to 54 inches in diameter. Here we're using a yardstick that has holes drilled in it. We're going to put a pick in the center of the fabric after we determine that the yardstick will go all around the fabric without coming off the edge. Then we'll place a pencil in one of the holes. We're going to make ours 44 inches. So we've divided that by 2. So we've placed the pencil at 22 inches and mark a circle. The diameter of the circle in the center is usually around 3 inches. So we've placed our pencil at 1.5 inches on our yardstick. These are approximate measurements. Now we'll cut out the fabric with scissors. To finish the circumference edge of the circle, you could create a double hem or sew on a binding. We've decided to use a bias binding, and we're sewing it on with the use of the Sailrite Swing Away 1-inch binder attachment. You could also sew binding on by hand, but it's a little bit more difficult. As you can see, the binder makes this job easy as it folds the binding over the raw edge of the fabric, and then all you have to do is sew it with a sewing machine. We're sewing a straight stitch approximately 6 millimeters in length. When we get to where we started, we want to do a little bit of reversing approximately 1 inch over the beginning portion of the binding. Then we can pull it out and trim it so it looks nice. Now that the outer edge is finished, we need to cut a slit, and we're going to cut that slit right where the binding overlaps itself. We'll fold the material at that location and crease it well in the center. Then we're going to use chalk to mark the edge so we know where to cut it all the way to the center of the tree skirt. We'll stop at that center location. Previously we drew a circle at that location, so there Angela stops. Now she'll unfold the fabric and she'll cut along that line with scissors all the way to the circle in the center. Now she'll cut out the 3-inch circle that she made with the yardstick earlier. We can now take this back to the sewing machine and sew binding on that edge we just cut. We're going to start here at the end and do a little bit of reversing to lock our stitch in place, and then sew all the way down the length of it till we get to the circle, and watch what we do there. Now we're at the circle, and watch what Angela does. She will bury her needle, she will push the fabric into the binder so that it's right inside of it, and she swings the binder a little bit back so she has a little bit more adjustment. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to push the fabric up against the edge of the binder because you don't want to miss the fabric. So take your time and go slow here. She's almost done with that 3-inch circle. This is just using an acrylic or Sunbrella bias binding. There's nothing really special about it. It's a fairly heavy binding, even on this 3-inch diameter circle, but that's mainly because we have a slit that opens up the circle. Now she's coming back to the straightaway, and she pushes her fabric up into the binder and sews all the way to the edge or outer circumference circle. Then she'll do some reversing there to lock the stitch in place. Then all you need to do is trim off the excess binding and cut your threads. You could use the Christmas tree skirt as is, but we're going to sew on ties which will keep the opening closed and give it a fancy appearance. Notice the binding has a tendency to sit vertical at the 3-inch center circle. That lifted edge, we believe, makes the skirt look even better under the tree. If you choose, you could use a fancy ribbon to make the ties, but we're going to use the binding that we used around the perimeter of the skirt, and we're going to sew it together, or sew it in half. This is a 1-inch binding, and when sewing it's approximately a 1/2 inch. And we did some reversing at the beginning, and we'll do some reversing at the end. We're going to make 2 ties. Now simply sew on the ties to the edge of the circle at the center slit on both sides. Here we'll do a little bit of reversing here, and then Angela's going to also sew near the folded edge of the binding, and she'll do a little bit of reversing there as well. Once this one's attached, we'll attach one on the opposite side. And now we can use these to tie a nice bow to secure the tree skirt around the trunk of the tree. Our Christmas tree skirt is now complete. You'll be able to pick from hundreds of fabrics at the Sayrite website. You'll also find multiple colors of binding that may work perfectly for your Christmas decor. From all of us here at Sayrite, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Bye-bye.